for months, Dawn Spicer was working part-time at her church. She was singing on the praise team, conducting Bible studies, and having an affair with a coworker. All the while, she thought, it's going to be okay.
Dawn and Jeremy Spicer's marriage had gotten off to a great start. The couple loved their time together.
We seemed to get along very well, and you know, I never saw any red flags.
I didn't feel like we had problems. It was good. It was good.
But that started to change when 3 years into their marriage, they had twin boys.
I believe our focus changed from being focused on each other, being focused on our marriage, to being focused on our boys, on being parents. Our marriage was strained because of that. However, I don't think either of us really saw that.
In addition to taking care of the family, Dawn worked part-time at their church and was a singer on the worship team. Over the next few years, she started feeling overwhelmed and that she wasn't being a good mom or wife.
I saw myself as never being good enough. I never was confident in anything. I always felt like I had mom guilt. I could do something better. And as a wife, I felt like I could do better. I felt like, you know, Jeremy deserved better. It was nothing that anyone else was making feel like it was my own insecurities.
Jeremy had his own struggles, and the couple started growing apart.
I was focused on taking care of the boys and just really not putting the right focus on her, or as much focus on her as I should be.
Feeling alone and unloved, Dawn was drawn to a coworker's affirmation and attention.
He would tell me good job, or you did great today, or things like that, which kind of boosted my confidence and made me feel good. That was filling a void of not being good enough and all of that. And hearing those things from him led us into a bad place.
That bad place was an affair that lasted 3 months, and the only way to stay in it was to justify it.
I never thought I'm gonna leave Jeremy. I never thought I'm gonna leave my children. I would just kind of pretend that Jeremy wasn't in the picture when I was with him, and vice versa. When I would come home, I would close that box and pretend it wasn't there, and I would just be wife, and I would just be mom. And so I just, in my head, justified it all and just said, Jeremy will not find out, and it's all gonna be okay.
Dawn Spicer's here with us now for more of her story. We welcome you to the program.
Thank you so much.
You had the perfect family, you know, your couple that loved each other, started out really strong, 2 perfect little boys. What happened?
I was trying to fill a void that I felt inside of me with something other than our God. And so I was craving the accolades and affirmations from people, and that's what I thought was going to complete me.
You know, Dawn, in your book, you talk about the fact that you were even feeling some of those things before you and Jeremy ever married. And you know, when we're in church and when we're doing the right stuff and going through all of that, and we feel that emptiness, there's always something before us that we think is gonna, when I get here, or when I meet this person, or when I do that. But you talk about the fact that you never really intended that this would destroy your marriage. So in the process of this, while it was happening, how did you justify it? What was in your head and your heart?
It was a disturbing place to be. One, like I said, I would compartmentalize things. So when I was at home, I played that part. And when I was with him, I played that part. And I kind of just blocked each other, or each thing out. Mm-hmm. But in the deepest, darkest pit of sin, I thought somehow God's going to make this good.
Going to redeem it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he does, but it's never easy, is it?
No.
You share with a friend, thinking that the friend, who's a very close personal friend, is going to keep this confidence. And what happened?
She kept it for a little bit, and then really just said, you've got to tell, or I am. And so kind of gave that ultimatum, which really saved my life in a way.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's a true friend.
Yes.
That'll call you to accountability. What was it like when you finally said, I have to tell Jeremy now? What was that like?
That was kind of the worst moment I think I've ever felt, thinking about the destruction that was going to come from that, the pain for him that was going to come from that. And so it was a terrifying thing, but it was an absolutely necessary thing.
How did you manage what he was feeling? Because it was, you loved him, but to watch someone you love go through pain like that when you know you're the one causing it, how did you deal with that?
That was a hard space to be, and really it was just fully surrendering to the Lord and begging for his help. There was a moment where Jeremy was laying on the bathroom floor, unable to even get up because he was so devastated. And I laid there beside him thinking, I should be the one that's comforting him, but I'm the one that has inflicted so much of this pain. And so it was a very strange duality to be in. Yeah.
But it's not an unusual story, really. No. I mean, we see this happening not just out there in the world, but in the church and with people who probably never ever thought they'd see themselves there. Through all of this, God has really taught you things, spoken things to you. Where does sin begin? You know, it gets a foothold somewhere, and then we say yes to one thing, and pretty soon we're up to our elbows. Talk about that.
It starts with small decisions that really just seem inconsequential in the moment, but it's that one decision of justification that just leads to the next. And I heard the saying often, we are always one decision away from a bad decision. And I didn't ever understand that until I was in that position. And it really does. It starts with that one little justification where you just don't think it's a big deal. And it slowly becomes a stronghold.
So you tell your husband, and you're walking through the muck and the mire of all of this, which had to be awful for all of you, for your husband, your family, you. But God has obviously reached into your heart and your mind, and that emptiness that was there even before Jeremy, while you were going through all the perfunctory church stuff, is now full. How did God minister that wholeness to you in such a place of brokenness?
You know, when you get to that place of brokenness, you're completely empty. There's nothing left. And day in and day out for many, many months, I sat at our kitchen table, and it started off with me just being able to just say, Jesus, help. And I just continued to just dive into his word and seek him and surrender. And the freedom that comes from fully surrendering to him is like nothing else that you can possibly fathom in your life. And so feeling that freedom for the very first time in my life has given me that fullness, that hope, and that joy that I will live with until I am in eternity with him.
One of the other elements that had to be a part of this for this to all transition into a miraculous recovery had to be Jeremy's forgiveness.
Absolutely.
How did that come about?
He, as soon as I confessed, of course he was absolutely broken, but he immediately looked at me and he said, I have a God that forgave me. How dare I not forgive you? And he did just that. And that's not to say that it wasn't a struggle. Sure. It wasn't a fight, but he not once did he throw it in my face after that. He fully forgave me. And from that point on, just decided that we were going to fight hard and work this out.
The other aspect of that had to be you forgiving yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That had to be a challenge.
It was a challenge, and that's where counseling came in. That's where the accountability.
You did counsel. Yes,
I did,
I think
absolutely.
That's so important.
Yes, I think counseling is an absolute definite in this. And I had a small inner circle of women that surrounded me and spoke truth to me, and that is what really carried me to the next level.
You talk about that, how important it is to have people in your life who are willing to walk through the muddy places with you to get you to wholeness. Sounds like you found that in a group.
I absolutely did. There were a lot of people that ran. There were a lot of people that ran, and you can't blame them for that because these are situations that you don't know how to handle. A lot of people don't know how to handle it. But I did. I had a small circle of women at the church that chose to step in the mud and carry me through. And in Exodus, there's a story that talks about Moses where he is on the hill, they're fighting, and
Joshua.
Two people that were with him came and carried him or held his arms up so that they could fight the war. And I really feel like that's what my people did for me, was they held my arms up and carried me to freedom.
Yeah, to the finish line.
Yes.
Your book is called Even Still, The Journey from Betrayal to Forgiveness and Redemption. What do you want the takeaway to be for people?
I want the takeaway to be, for one, If you are in darkness right now, if you are sitting in sin or whatever poor choice or struggle that you have, turn the light on. Step into the light, because the darkness will only get darker. And there is so much freedom, and there is a God that loves you more than you can possibly fathom, loves you more than any poor decision that you've made. And so just turn the light on and take that first step.
Well, the book is called Even Still. It's available nationwide. Dawn, thank you so much for being with us today. What a story.
Thank
A
you.
story of redemption. That's why they call him the Redeemer. Good to have you with us.